So it looks like we're going to have to use Zoom in order to do some of these screen captures. So we are going to look at the mapping of segregation in this one. This is a New York Times article from 2015, so a good bit ago. But again, we don't have new census data, right? So this is 2010 census data. And what this allows us to do is look at segregation by census tract, these little black things that are popping up, these little black edged spots. These are all census tracts. You can look up the percentages in each of these, or you can just look at the map and look at the scatter plot. So one dot is 120 people, blue is Black, orange is Hispanic, red is Asian, green is white, and purplish is others. So this is New York City. This one is Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Boston. We will look at all of these, and then we're going to switch over to the raw map and see what we can do there. So here we have Philadelphia, Los Angeles. Look, we have all the orange now coming up in just a minute. You can move around. You can say, okay, what about southern Los Angeles? How far down do we want to go? You can kind of scooch around and look at different profiles of different parts of the city. Whatever they did, they made all the dots all nice and bright, which is not on the main file, which we're going to find out in a minute. You can look at San Francisco, kind of zoom around a little bit and see what you see. Francisco, Atlanta, here's that. Eventually, all right, there's Atlanta. Houston has an interesting spoke design. That's the kind of a swirly, almost like those whirly things that you would get from a carnival or something, and you would blow in them, and it's pinwheels. There we are. Brain doesn't always work. So pinwheels almost has that pinwheel kind of structure of Houston. Dallas, not so much. Much more widespread with pockets in Dallas. Chicago, there we are. Chicago is very quilt-like compared to some of the other ones. Minneapolis, you can see that. My niece lives like in here somewhere, in downtown Minneapolis. Denver, we have that one. And then what else we can do? We can look at, here it is, the original map. So this is available. If you just search racial dotmap on Google, it should bring it up. You want the racial.map.demographics.coopercenter.org. And the first thing you want to do is add map labels. There you go. So then you can see your towns. If you don't add your map labels, then you just have, large swath of the United States. You do that. You do not want to remove color coding, because there you go. That does not help you. This is a population density chart. Then you put your color coding back in and you see the different census block areas. Now what this lets us do, though, is it lets us zoom in and say, what about Huntsville? What about Huntsville? Now it's going to be a little slow as we just kind of back and forth. Ooh, might not be too far into Huntsville. Give that a second. No, that's pretty good. That shows a pretty good look at the segregation in Huntsville. And most people who have lived here for any length of time are going to look at this and say, no surprises whatsoever with the distribution of human beings within this general area. Now we can zoom back out again and say another really interesting distribution. Cannot even think today while I'm trying to do this at the same time. We've seen Chicago already. Let's go on over to Detroit, because they have an incredibly clear delineation in Detroit, which is clearer than some of the other cities. Like, here's your street and there's your street, and never the twain shall meet. So very, very distinct segregation in this particular community. Now we will zoom on over. Let's take a look at where my boy lives in South Dakota. We are about to see like no changes. Is he even a town? Can we even find him? Will he show up? Not yet, he won't. Goodness, is he that far out of the way? Let's cruise on up Watertown. Okay, so he's not even, we're in North Dakota now, right? Fargo. So yeah, his little town does not even fit on here any place. Madison Sioux Falls. So he's somewhere in this. This is probably Brookings. It's just not labeled as such. It's the only slightly large-ish place in this part of South Dakota. It is definitely. That's the town. We have found it unlabeled. There we go. We don't see a whole heck of a lot of diversity here in South Dakota, do we? We see a lot of blue. We see smatterings. This is more likely where students, this is South Dakota State University. So you have students and faculty kind of living about this area. And then you have the rest of the town. And you have very little diversity. It looks like a smidge of Hispanic over here, maybe. Tiniest little smidge. And it looks like what I thought it looked like when we drove there and went out to eat and got him settled. So most of the time when you look at these different towns in this chart, there will be no surprises whatsoever. So it's always a good joke to my daughters. It's a good how segregated are we really party game to bring up. So racial.map.demographics.coopercenter.org.